Hello everyone, I'm Brian, and welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
Right? Sure, Molly. Thank you. Thank you. You have a question? Okay, we'll take the question. Then we'll come back for a question from the internet. Your question. Can you tell us your name and the question?
So my name is Jyoti Agarwala. And first I want to say it's very good fortune that we New Yorkers have you in residence here. I'm delighted that you're here.
Thank you.
To answer these questions. You mentioned earlier, as you started the morning, that it's in our grasp to experience this trinity of Satchitananda.
Yes.
And in last week's lecture, you talked about Maya and the Shaktis of Maya, and the Varana and Vikshepa.
Avarana and Vikshepa. Avarana means covering, and Vikshepa.
And Vikshepa. The concealing and the projections. And so, what, in your opinion, is the best path for us to overcome these Shaktis which keep us from that experience of Turiya?
Yes. So how do I overcome the veiling power of Maya, which prevents me from realizing what I already am? So it's not a trinity. Satchidananda is existence, consciousness, bliss. It's a unity. It's a non-duality. These are three aspects of that not qualities, not three different entities. A trinity would imply three in one,
Yeah, I was wondering, Trinity, I think, oh wait, I have not heard that one.
So it's one reality, and that's what you are. Now, how do I overcome the veiling power of Maya? That is the question. Big task. But also a very simple task. See, first of all, recognize that you are that already. Even if you think that I am enlightened, I don't know that, fine. But Advaita Vedanta says, you do not know that, but you are that. One Swami has to sit at his feet in the Himalayas. Once in a while he would say in Hindi, Tum jano ya na jano, whether you know it or not. Tum mano ya na mano, whether you accept it or not. Tum hi Ram. You are Rama, God. You are God. So, that's one thing. What I am already, and yet I do not know it, the only thing it could be the veil is, what is this a veil of? Is it made of cloth? Is it an iron door which has been slammed shut? Is it a concrete box? What is it? It's just ignorance. It's just a veil of confusion. It's a mist. One of the earliest meanings of Maya is a mist. Kuhak in Bengali. Something that confuses us. So the only answer to your question is, how do you overcome ignorance? We all know. Through knowledge. You need to know who you are. Right? And the path to this in Vedanta is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana, hearing these truths, studying it systematically, what we do here. Again and again, listen to it. It's about you. It's not some boring, dry philosophy from halfway across the world from a culture 5,000 years ago. No. It's about you right now. Right. We're talking about you, your deepest reality. So listen to these truths again and again. Then questions will come. Answer these questions. And then meditate upon it. Once you have heard these truths, understood it, removed doubts, what you are convinced about, then you meditate deeply upon that and clarity will come. Clarity will come about what? What you already are. I was saying that other day, in Vedanta, what do you get? You get what you already have got. Praptasya prapti, they say in Hindi or in Sanskrit. What you have already got, you get that. What do you mean I'll get what I've already got? What you have got, there's only one way you can miss what you have got. Somehow you don't know it, that you have got it. So Vedanta only tells you that you've got it. Somebody said the business of a management consultant is to look at your watch and tell you the time. Vedanta is very much like that. It's your watch. And what will Vedanta remove? Nivrittasya nivritti, they say. What was never there is removed by Vedanta. That I am a miserable little creature who is born and who dies, maybe goes through many lives, all of that, that's what I think I am, that will be removed. It will be shown to be false. It's a concept, it's a misconception.
That's really weird to say. It's like Vedanta will remove what was never there. That is, so it's basically removing nothing because you are who you are and have always been. You just don't realize it.
Now, is this enough? Often it is not. Because we have complicated things so much that to make it uncomplicated, to untangle the knots we have ourselves made, some other supporting practices are recommended. Meditation is important. Raja Yoga. Devotion to God. Bhakti Yoga is important. And Karma Yoga. The deepest bondage is our attachment to this little being, which we call I, this little being of body and mind. This is another word is called selfishness. And Karma Yoga cuts at the root of this selfishness. Our actions are now directed towards the cosmic, not towards this individual. Bhakti Yoga channelizes your love, the power of love and attachment and desire, which goes towards the world. The nature of desire is, I want the world. The nature of bhakti is, I want the same I want. That I want is same. God. My Krishna, my Divine Mother, my Christ, whatever you call it. An intense love of God. Bhakti Yoga. And Raja Yoga, meditation. Can you calm the chattering mind down to a deep stillness? One of the most beautiful things I heard again in Hindi from a Swami again in the Himalayas. He said in his homely Hindi, Shant man mein koi samsar nahi dekha hai bhala. In a deeply peaceful mind, there is no samsara. Have you noticed a very peculiar thing? Problems are no problems when your mind is peaceful.
Sorry, I wanted to pause a little bit earlier, but okay, I think I get it. It's kind of weird how he didn't say Jnana Yoga, though, even though he said knowledge is the way to removal, but he only talks about the 3 yogas and didn't include Jnana Yoga. But anyway, so karma, your actions and your thoughts, bhakti, devotion, love, your wants and desires. It's getting, again, this is getting a little bit more knowledge into the yogas. And then Raja, meditation, so the quieting of the mind. I've always heard meditation, but I didn't really know, okay, meditation. I guess I never thought about it as in quieting the mind. Even though meditation is kind of that, but I thought maybe something more. It wasn't really very precise. It was, of course, blocking out everything, but is there more? So, karma is your actions and thoughts. Jnana is your knowledge. He then explained that. So knowledge and what do you learn to obtain your true self? That you learn that you are the Turiya, but how? And bhakti, devotion, saying instead of I want things, desire things, you desire God and want God. I guess the method of how to do these things is the next stage, since I think I understand the ground level of each of the 4 yogas. And meditation is just peace of mind. But once you get there, I guess there might be more. That's the base level. Removing yourself from the action, seeing your actions separate from yourself, seeing your desires separate from yourself, seeing your thoughts or knowledge as separate from yourself, and then to quiet all of those things in Raja.
Problems are problems in an agitated mind. When your mind is completely at peace. You say, I am not at peace because of my problems. No. You have problems because you are not at peace.
And that's kind of my thing right now. It's just, I know someone made a comment. It's like, well, I guess you didn't watch my one video when I had Brian Regan make the comedy. Yes, I do want to get started in this, but like Swami Sarvapriyananda, I believe, made a story about I can't remember. Anyway, it was a guy. He said, kids go away, wife, try to be quiet in the next room and let me meditate. I have to meditate for whatever was going on. And then he's like, I want some coffee. Then I will meditate. And he goes, makes coffee, comes in there. After he drinks coffee, he sits back down. It's like, it's a little hot, so let me turn on the fan. Like that. Right now, my life is a lot of that. So it's not the right time for me yet. Even though no matter if I try, there's just too much going on right now to start, and I'm hoping to remedy that by the end of this year.
peaceful mind, meditation. With this unselfish mind, with this devoted mind, with this peaceful mind, if you apply yourself to Vedanta, the not flash of intuition, Brahma Jnana, what they call Brahmakara Vritti, is bound to come. I mean, you'll discover the treasure within. Mr. Dhar was just singing in Bengali, Janhovi Tire Trishna Katur. On the bank, O ye who are blind, sitting on the bank of the Ganges and dying of thirst. We're just not turning around and seeing what is within us. We look into the world, into a desert to satisfy our thirst. And a desert cannot satisfy your thirst. You may spend life after life chasing the things of the world. You will get them, but it will not satisfy your thirst.
All temporary.
Vivekananda said, never desire anything. Why? Why? Because you will get them. You'll get it. That's why I don't desire.
What?
You see, the law of karma says the moment you ask for something, really intensely work towards it, you will get it. You see, is that so bad? You'll be trapped again. As long as you want to experience this world and you think really the solution to your personal problem lies in this world, go ahead, try it. Vedanta is very patient. We'll be there. We'll wait for you. You come back this lifetime, many lifetimes hence, I'll wait. Very good. Thank you.
There was a second part to
Yes.
the question.
Oh.
You also talked about raga and dvesha.
Yes.
We have cravings and we have
Aversion.
aversions. So if we have this cravings and aversions, and also there is this idea that all these paths you said to Bhakti Yoga and Raj Yoga, they're not very practical in our Manhattan existence. Right? So is there a possibility that
Sorry, I'm going to rewind now. What happened in Manhattan?
Bhakti Yoga and Raj Yoga, they're not very practical in our Manhattan existence. Right? So is there a possibility that you could use psychotherapy as a way to know yourself in a way, in this practical way, that you have this hour with a therapist, you're saying, why am I angry when I see something happen? Or why am I sad? Or why am I reacting this way? And in that process, come to a place where you stop craving and you stop, being, hating things or not liking them. Is there any role in a modern way?
Yes.
Interesting. So psychologists, psychiatrists, I know they do help. They help a lot of people out, but I don't think it's the same way, because even though they probably will get as far as I have to some degree, because I'm able to logic a lot of things, my desires. I'm like, I want that. Trust me, I tried. It's very hard for me. It's like I do want a lot of things, but I put them off quite frequently, just because I understand that I can't just keep spending money or keep giving them to my desires. So I've done a decent job at that. My emotions, when normally things would get people, about your average person, angry, I've logicked it out so that it doesn't get me emotional or anything like that. And I have a feeling that's probably where psychiatrists can get certain people up to, but I don't think they can get, how do I say, I think for them it's not going to be a way to separate the emotion, but more to understand it, like what I do. I understand why do I feel like I want that? Because it's fun, it's new, it's toy, but do I need that? No, right now I need to save because I'm trying to do something. So what's more important, getting that now or waiting until you get the greater thing? The greater thing is going to take a long time, and yeah, it'll take a long time. So I was like, well, I have to wait till the greater thing, because that's more important. So that's how my mind works. I look at the pros and cons of everything, and I think that's what psychologists can do to people, but it's not the same thing as this. This one will completely remove that detachment.
Psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, if you say, I'm sure it does some good, definitely. But if you say modern way, even psychoanalysis is becoming dated. I saw a Time magazine story saying that why Freud has lost his validity, his charm, and is being replaced by a variety of new techniques. Now all the rage is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, talk therapies, and so on and so forth. I'm sure they do give you benefit. And
Probably it depends on the individual.
my little bit of exploration in positive psychology has shown me that it is beneficial. But the thing is, what I've seen overall, if they are successful, at the most what they can do for you is they fine-tune a little bit so that you function better in this world. They do not go to the deepest existential problem. As long as you think I am this limited creature,
Yes.
flesh and blood, cut off from everything else in the world, subject to every influence in the world, heat and cold and insult and praise, financial success and failure, and so many things in the world, and so many things from deep within. I'm tossed in this. Unless you go to the root of that, which is who am I? Right? Until that time, you solve a mess today, tomorrow the mess will be there, a new mess will be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it solves one problem because they handle one problem at a time. It's like, oh, you have anger issues, and they kind of go back to solving the anger issue, but then there could be jealousy issue, there could be other kinds of issues that it doesn't solve. They just solve that one because they find a root of a problem for that one single issue, while you have like 50 million going other ways of other issues that can crop up. And then maybe you solve that one anger issue, then there's another anger issue that's not related to that, but it's still an anger issue. So it's all kind of, they hyper focus on a problem. But I guess that's a limitation of the understanding.
Definitely. There is no permanent solution here. Now, one way out is the people will say, well, there is no permanent solution, so you have to make the best that you can. No. All religions in different language, this is the promise of religion, that there is a permanent, a deep solution, a profound solution is there. Call it God, Brahman, self-realization, salvation, moksha, nirvana. All the great teachers of humanity throughout the ages have promised this. And the proof of this is, proof of the pudding is in the eating. The proof of this is hundreds, if not thousands of people through the ages in different cultures have pursued this path, and not one of them till today who has pursued it in some sincerity also, may not have attained God. Not one of them has come and said that, oh, it's all nonsense. No, not one. Now, if you say 1 hour with a therapist, if we find that practical, why not 1 hour of studying Vedanta and meditating and praying?
And also, yeah, therapist is probably super expensive too.
Same 1 hour. And it will save you $150 also.
Ooh, dang. For 1 hour?
Yes. I think Swami Ashokanandaji was not in favor. That was the heyday of psychoanalysis, 1950s and 60s. Everybody, if you were somebody in society, you had to have your therapist. Like in India, you have your guru. So here, you'd have to have your therapist. Those days are past now, but Swami Ashokananda, reacting to that, he said, don't go to them. They will disintegrate you and reintegrate you and until you are a mass of patchwork. One way is to look at the insights of psychology, especially positive psychology. A lot of advances have been made in the last 20-25 years actually, which are pretty good, I think. And integrate them into your spiritual practice. That you can do.
I think that's where I was headed.
Yes. Yes.
East-west.
So, yeah. Again, there's that middle ground. That's what I'm not really trying to achieve the middle ground in terms of happiness, but middle ground in terms of understanding. Because I know there's going to be a lot of Westerners, or just people in general who don't believe this, but they do generally believe in certain sciences or things that are very probable that can happen in life. So, we kind of like Brahman. If I look at it in the materialistic point of view, which is one of the point of views I look at Brahman, there's I think 3 of them so far. So the materialistic point of view, which is what I initially started with, is all our bodies made out of cells, and all of our cells are made out of atoms, and then all of our atoms are made out of a nucleus, and all the nucleus are made of protons and neutrons, and what's circling around the nucleus is an electron. and then you can go down. I think you can go down smaller and smaller and smaller until you get a subatomic particle or whatever it may be. The absolute smallest thing in the universe, nothing smaller than it, and it is in everything that exists. You can call that Brahman. And then, logically speaking, that can make sense to a lot of people. It's like, well, you know, everything's made out of atoms. You could even call that Brahman. Because if it doesn't have an atom, it doesn't exist. But, of course, we're going to look at the most minute of things that exist in everything. And, again, to say that it's in everything, to say Brahman is existence, to say that Atom exists in everything, therefore Atom is Brahman. But of course, go down to the smallest. The fabric of existence is Brahman. So that's the middle ground that I'm trying to create, to understand these things in a logical point of view, I suppose, but just a way of understanding it.
One thing I'll just say, East-West is very good. Swami Vivekananda said, those rishis who gave us the Upanishads and Gita and everything, they are all wonderful, but they are all dead and gone. You too must be rishis for yourself. You must think for yourself. You must carve out your own path. All the treasures are there before you. Use them. See how it is useful. One thing I'll leave you with. When you say raga, dvesha, aversion and desire, when you say problems in the mind, you say that it's there in your consciousness. Isn't it? Vedanta says, who experiences this raga and dvesha, this aversion and desire? Take a look at that. You see, we become so busy in trying to manage our problems, our mental problems. We're trying to manage the objects. But who is the one trying to manage? We're trying to reduce the suffering. But who is the one who says that I am suffering? Vedanta says, if you could turn around and look into that, your problems will be solved. You would transcend the mess. The mess would still remain like that maybe. But often the mess takes care of itself. We torture the mind unnecessarily sometimes. I want to enjoy this. Mind, you must enjoy. If the mind gets bored, you feel bad. Oh, I'm not able to enjoy this movie or this food or something. Right. The mind, you must meditate now. You sit and meditate, and poor mind feels sleepy, and you say, what a loser I am. I can't even meditate. You're torturing the mind. If you leave it alone, often you will find the mind settles down into something very nice. Take a step back. The reason we are torturing the mind is we think we are the mind. And we have to be in a certain way and not in that way. The mind is full of aversions and desires and all that. Let it be. What's it to you? Say, what do you mean, Swami, what's it to be? No, really, I mean it. What's it to you? The moment you let it alone, you'll find the mind settles down. Be centered in the self, not in the mind or the body. You said practical life in Manhattan. I'll leave you with this question. Are you in Manhattan or is Manhattan in you? Manhattan is in your consciousness. Where is Manhattan when you go to deep sleep? As a prominent politician once said, he said that I was born in the slum, but I took care to see that the slum was not born in me. You can be in Manhattan. Don't let Manhattan in there. The boat can be in water. Don't let the boat, the water into the boat. The way to see that is to do exactly that, to see that Manhattan is actually an appearance in you. And it can go on in its own way. You be at peace. Thank you, Jyoti.
And that's another thing I was going to get at. I was going to explain, but it's like, well, the moment's passed, but now he brought it up about Manhattan's in you, in your consciousness. And another way to explain this logically is the fact that people think I'm experiencing this in my hand. Because if it weren't for my hand, I could not experience this. And it's right here where I'm experiencing it, but in reality, it's in your consciousness. Because, and the way I would explain it's like, the way I prove it, let me knock you unconscious, then let me, like that to your finger. Are you experiencing that? No, you're not, because you're unconscious. Your consciousness is knocked out. At least that's one way of explaining it. Now, is that the ultimate way? I don't know. I have not really thought about it too much, but that is one way of explaining that the fact that I'm experiencing this. I'll tell them, like, if I were to cut off your fingers and then touch your finger, will you experience that? It's like, no, because the nerves cannot send a signal into your arm, to your neck, and to your brain anymore. So it's all the sensations of your feelings been sent to the brain, and your brain's interpreting it, and then your consciousness is aware of it. So if it can manifest in your consciousness, then you can experience it. And then I express, well, then I'm the brain. It's like, well, people can actually chop off certain lobes of their brain and still function and still experience life. So there's going to be a certain point where it's like you're maybe a certain part of the brain. Once you remove that one part while the rest of the brain still exists, the consciousness may be removed. That's where I was making an argument where it's still very plausible, but still, nonetheless, is that whatever that part may be, it's your consciousness, and that's where you experience everything. So, you watching this video, this pen, is all experienced in this consciousness. Everything must manifest in your consciousness for it to exist, for you to experience it. If it doesn't manifest in your consciousness, it does not exist, and, well, yeah, it doesn't exist. So therefore, you watching this video, you holding this phone, you looking at the monitor, all that's being manifested in your consciousness. So technically, everything is consciousness. That's how I logic it. Which it does make sense. So again, it goes along the parts where to say this entire world is consciousness, and that's like, okay, and that's how I get it. Now, of course, that's the second one. First one's material in terms of everything is external. Second one for me is this kind of middle ground between the two, and the third one's Advaita Vedanta, which is I can only say what I understand so far, that everything is consciousness. I don't know whether it means my method as in the brain, but I think everything is consciousness.
One question from the internet? Yes.
Can I ask from here to give the...
Yes, next. We have one question from the internet, and then you can ask.
This is from Saswati, and she wants to know the real meaning of the first stanza of Dakshinamurti Stava by Acharya Shankara. And then there was another one that you wanted to follow up on. And Vashali is asking, are we, the jiva, in Brahman's dream?
Okay. An explanation of the first stanza of the Dakshinamurti Stotram. Now that's good. I'm sure the reason the person is asking the question is a number of times I've quoted it. So it's one of my favorites. That's why I think the question has come. In some lecture in the internet it must be there. It's a hymn written by Shankaracharya to Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is the south-facing Shiva, the Shiva who grants knowledge. God in his aspect of granting spiritual knowledge, Dakshinamurti. Now, there, the first stanza is so beautiful. It goes like this. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam pashyannatmani mayaya bahirivodbhutam yatha nidraya ya sakshat kurute prabodha samaye swatmanamevadvayam tasmai shri dakshinamurtaye gurumurtaye tasmai shri gurumurtaye namaidam shri dakshinamurtaye. I salute Shiva, Dakshinamurti Shiva. Who is my guru? Who is my own self? The self, Atma, Guru and God are one. Ishvara Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine. They appear in different forms as God, as my Guru, and as my own self. It's one undivided reality. I salute that. In whom the entire universe appears like a city in a mirror. Look at this image. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam. Sometimes when you're driving outside Manhattan, when you cross the bridge, when you look at your driving mirror, you can see Manhattan shining at night. The lights of Manhattan shining in your mirror, in your driving mirror. It's like the whole city is in your mirror. You can see the buildings and the skyline and the bridge, everything you can see in the mirror. Exactly like that, Shankara says, the entire universe, like a city in a mirror, is in you, the consciousness. The mirror is you, consciousness. And in you, the entire universe appears. Now, in the case of a mirror, the city is outside. And you're driving and the city is reflected in your mirror. But Shankaracharya says, Nijantargatam. Here there is no universe outside consciousness. By the power of Maya, the universe is projected in consciousness itself. How is this possible? We do it every day at night when you dream. Yatha nidraya, he says. Just like you dream. And when you dream, you forget that you are lying in your bed safe and sound, but you see a world, maybe Manhattan, and you see yourself walking in your dream, in the world created in your dream, in your mind. You are also there in that world. You have a body and you're walking, and you're talking with people. It's as if the world is outside you. In your dream, when you see a world, when you see people, it's as if the people are outside you. And yet they are in reality, all of them are in you, the dreaming mind. Isn't it? So an entire universe, a world is created and projected as if outside in our dreams every day in the night. When we wake up, we think, oh, it was all in my head, it was a dream. Exactly like that, in consciousness, an entire universe is projected, like a city in the mirror. Imagine there's no mirror no city outside, just the mirror and city there. They didn't have television in Shankaracharya's day. Otherwise, he could have given the example of a television where there's nothing outside needed for a reflection. It's produced from inside. So, in consciousness, this universe appears. The reason it appealed to me was, as a kid, I think I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. Once we were driving, I remember my dad was driving and we were in the outside a city, so it was dark. But when we were approaching the city, I saw the city in the mirror. I don't know why it struck me so deeply. I don't know why. I never forgot that. Years later, when I came across that example in Shankaracharya's Dakshinamurti Stotram, the universe is like a city seen in a mirror, shining in the mirror of your own consciousness. It's inside you. Then I was so thrilled to read this, so I often would quote it. Notice one thing about the city in the mirror. In the mirror, the city which you are seeing in the mirror, it's not really there. What's there? It's a mirror. Every bit of the city that you see there, the buildings, the roads, the people, the sky, the birds, they're all what? They're the mirror, they're glass. There's no real bird or man or a building or road in the mirror. It's just an image in the mirror. In the same way, they say, in this consciousness in which the universe appears, there is no real world outside which your consciousness is experiencing. That's how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as, here is the world, Manhattan, and I'm a person, little person in this world with a little bit of consciousness. I'm a body with consciousness, and with this consciousness I'm experiencing this Manhattan, enjoying, suffering, seeking, desiring, getting hurt, living, older, disease, death. All this is because I think I'm this body. Whereas all the time, Vedanta tells you, in your consciousness, just like a dream, Manhattan appears, your body appears, your mind appears with its thoughts and desires and everything. You are the consciousness in which this appears. And then through this you can act. Think of yourself not as a body with consciousness. Think of yourself as a consciousness in which a body appears.
And this actually is a really good example. It's the fact that, again, the three things that I think of, the material, the consciousness, and then Advaita Vedanta. These two are what I formulated based on my personal experience. The third one is my understanding of Advaita Vedanta. So the first one he was talking about, you think you're the body. So this is what my first thought is, the material world, is that you think you are the body. The second one is the consciousness, where you're this consciousness in this meat machine, and you're experiencing this life through this meat machine, but everything still has to manifest in consciousness for you to be aware of it. So that's a really weird way to look at it, but yes, Your consciousness, it must manifest in consciousness for you to experience it, and that's the only way to experience it. So therefore, like the dream, it must manifest in consciousness for you to be aware of it. Otherwise, without consciousness, you cannot be aware of it. And I'm not. Then the third one, Advaita Vedanta, as I'm calling it, it's just my understanding of it as best as I could so far from what I learned.
Think of yourself as a consciousness in which the world appears. You can do it right now. In fact, it's not imagination. Vedanta seeks to re-educate us. It gives us new eyes to see, not new things to see. I think it was in Eliot's poem. I've forgotten the thing there. That we shall set forth, voyaging on seas unknown, seeking new adventures. I've forgotten the exact. Maybe Ulysses or something. Who wrote that? Tennyson? There must be Tennyson. Yes. And to seek and to find. Yes. And then he writes. And maybe I'm mixing up the poets. And we shall then, and not to yield. Yes, that's there. But then we shall come back again. To your home and hearth and everything, and to see old things anew with new eyes. Vedanta takes you on this journey and brings you back. Is that Tennyson? Yeah, the comeback part, I don't know where it is. So when you come back again, the same world, now you are seeing it with new eyes, with the eyes of Vedanta. Yes. So it also explains the second one. Are we creatures in Brahman's dream? A nice way of putting it. And there's a whole thing that are we somebody in somebody else's dream? It's a nice philosophical conundrum. There's a modern version of that. That some philosophers say that there's a super advanced alien civilization which is running extremely advanced computer simulations, and our world and universe is a simulation in the computer simulation of some advanced alien and somebody no less than Elon Musk backs this theory. He says it's quite possible. It's quite possible. It's basically the same, are we in somebody else's dream theory? And one of the ideas is Vishnu is dreaming this dream of the universe. Lord Vishnu. And this universe appears in Vishnu's dream. But Vedanta will point out one thing here. Whether it's somebody else's dream or not, the one unchangeable, unchallengeable fact is you are experiencing it, isn't it? Right now. You are experiencing your waking. You are experiencing your dreams. You are experiencing the absence of waking and dream in deep sleep. And again you experience waking and dreaming.
I was going to wonder how he was going to get those three in there. And it's really weird to say that you're experiencing your deep sleep, because in terms of the mind, you're not. You're just aware that you're experiencing nothing. That's actually a very good argument there. You're aware that you're experiencing nothing. How are you aware that you're experiencing nothing? Well, because you remember nothing. Literally, you remember nothing. You remember you went to sleep. You remember you had a dream, and then you remember waking up. And in between those, nothing, which you remember. That's kind of funny to say that. You remember nothing. That's usually a bad thing and usually means nothing, but nothing means something in this case.
That you experience cannot be denied. Vedanta is saying that whether what you experience is a dream or not, look at who is experiencing. I'm sorry for sounding so monomaniacal. I keep driving you back to that point. Who is experiencing?
Yeah.
Are we creatures in Brahman's dream? Vedanta's first answer would be, in a way, yes. The real answer would be, you are Brahman. You are Brahman.
And that's actually not a bad point, too. Actually, now that I think about it again one more time, the fact that in your dream, you experience from the body that you're in control of, but you don't experience it from anyone else. So therefore, if this is in fact Brahman dreaming, and you are experiencing it, therefore you must be Brahman. Wow, okay. Because again, if you go to your dream, in the dream, you do not experience what other things are experiencing in there, even though they're you. You only experience you from your dream, even though everything else around you is you. And in this waking world. Well, I need to make sure I'm staying in the frame here. So, even in this waking world, we can only ever experience things from our own bodies, and not from anyone else. Actually, that's interesting.
One alone exists. It appears as nature and soul. We are dreaming this dream of Maya. Yes. There was a question. Anybody would like to ask? Yes.
My name is Vishnu.
Yes.
Question is,
Oh wait, is he serious? That's his name?
I'll repeat the question afterwards, don't worry. Yes.
Vidyate
Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. Yes. Sarvapryananda. Yes.
Is it spiritual retreat?
Is it spiritual retreat? Yes. So Vishnu, I think, may have had the last word, because we are almost out of time. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi Chidyante Sarva Samshaya. One of the most beautiful descriptions of the result of illumination. You get Brahma Jnana, you realize Brahman, whatever it is, what do you get out of it at the end of it? If you say you get what you've already had and what was not there was removed, and not particularly inspiring. But the Mundaka Upanishad is so inspiring. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. The knots of the heart are rent asunder. All doubts. Chidyante Sarva Sanshaya. All doubts go forever. No, all the questions will wither away. All the questions will be burned to a crisp in the blazing fire of knowledge. You have no doubt after this anymore. It's so clear. You see, when I say, I understand it, Swami, but the moment I step outside the Vedanta society, it becomes confused again. Then it's a sign that it is not steady yet. It's not clear, it's not illumination. You have a grasp on it. You begin to get what's being talked about. But when this illumination comes, with the light of 1,000 suns, it's a figurative thing. Don't think you light up, you start glowing. But yes, there'll be a glow in your face. But it's the light of consciousness. You realize it's there all the time. You realize it's there right now. You just see it for the first time. Chidyante sarva samshaya. After this, no doubt can remain. For a person looking up at the blazing sun, even if you argue 1,000 times with him that there is no sun, it's impossible for him to listen to your arguments. Somebody asked a great Jnani, how do you always experience Brahman? How do you experience Brahman? As a concept, as an awareness, or as a memory of some spiritual experience, as some background awareness or something shadowy in which the world is there? And he says, no, nothing background, nothing abstract or nothing shadowy. He says, I experience it as solidly as a rock filling the entire universe. Nirantara, without any gap, it's always there. Unavoidably, you cannot escape it. Chidyante sarva samshaya. Kshiyante chasya karmani. All the karmas of such a one, which will give rise to this life and next life, especially the karmas which will give rise to the lives to come, those karmas are burnt up because you see yourself as one with Brahman. The individual existence will continue for a while. The example is a chariot or a fan is going on. You switch up the fan, it will still rotate for a couple of times. The body will go on for a while, and it will be a great blessing for the rest of humanity. Your very existence will be a blessing for humanity. Everybody gets that peace and joy from you. Even if you do not speak, they get it from you. Kshiyante chasya karmani. And after the body drops off, the physical body dissolves into physical nature, the subtle body melts away into subtle nature, consciousness remains as it is. You are Brahman, you remain as Brahman. The pot is broken. The little space in the pot merges with the vast space outside. Merges only figuratively. It was always one. Just that appearance of distinction goes away. Vivekananda says, heed then no more how body lives or dies. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. You are free. The person doesn't become free. You become free of the person. Yeah. You will see the person just like you see all other persons. As Vishnu put it so brilliantly, that is the meaning of spiritual retreat. I couldn't have put it better. I think we should all give a hand to Vishnu. Yeah. That is the purpose, the meaning of spiritual retreat. That insight. Yes.
Okay. The quote I was going to pause, but I was going to wait till I finish, is the quote that I actually like is the fact that you will gain what you've always had, and it will remove a veil that was never there. I like that a lot, because it's contradictory, but it makes sense. I love those type of phrases. I can't remember, there's a few of them that I had. I need to write this stuff down. But you will gain everything that you've already had. And the veil, I want to phrase it in such a wonderful way. You will gain everything that you've already had. So you basically it's saying you gain nothing, even though it says you gain everything. And the removal of the veil. And the veil, and the removal of the veil that was never there. I need to do the last part a little bit better, but I love that you will gain everything that you've already had. You will gain everything that you've never lost. I'm trying to make it a non-duality, because I can see some Westerners seeing that as a duality. I need to work on that phrase, but I like it. I like it a lot. And it's true. Understanding it from Advaita Vedanta's point of view, that you've always had this. So anyways, that's the end of my reaction to Ask Swami, February 19th. I think I said the 9th first time around. Somehow one went missing. Kind of like when moving to India, when it's in fact moving India. Anyways, that's the end of this reaction. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.